Everyone, so this is a call, and for this video we're going to talk about the air element and how to bring balance to the air element. And this is a transmutation video, so to some degree we're going to go into a little bit about sexual energy, meaning we're not going to go talk about it a lot, but we're going to be working with it a tiny bit in this video. So this video is also, I should mention, is the techniques in this video are part of a bigger program, part of a bigger, I shouldn't say program, it's a video that's for sale that's actually quite cheap. and it's a very powerful progression that I created to balance all the elements in the body. So we're talking about earth, air, fire, and water. And so anyway, that's kind of why I'm doing this, is to draw your awareness to the fact that there is this very powerful progression that I've created that I would like you all to sort of benefit from. So if you're interested in that larger progression, it's a sexual transmutation progression. There's yogic movements along with the breath work and the various mudras. You can check it out. Link down below the video. All right, so down with the sales pitch. So next, we're going to go into the air element here. The air element is, it's interesting, is that when I think of the air element, immediately the only way I can really kind of contextualize it, because air to me is such a kind of dispersed thing. It's not something I relate to, right? Like I blow on my hand, and of course I know it's air, but like water is so tangible. Earth is so, solid, right? And so fire being hot, and fire is visual, but air is, transparent. It's clear. And in a lot of ways, when I think about the air element, particularly as it relates to, let's say, Aquarius, Libra, Gemini, when it relates to those particular signs, when I tend to think about it, what I think about is those signs in a lot of ways, if I think about ultimate purpose, it's the movement towards clarity. And so what those particular signs are gifted with is this amazing mental cerebral capacity. But more what I think about also along with the cerebral mental capacity is, and those of you who tend to be very intellectual, you will know this through, also I should say you should be sensitive, right? So you'll know that air expands and contracts, right? So you can heat up air and it will expand, and you cool it down and it contracts. And you filled up a balloon before and you'll notice that it'll expand on a hot day, and you put it outside in like cold weather and it'll kind of start to shrink. So that's kind of what ends up what happens with air. You heat it up and it starts to the molecules in the air start to move faster and moving around. So when I think about all the air signs, I always think about expansion and contraction. It's just done differently, right? So with Gemini, it's the sort of mercurial, it's going back and forth between this and that. But ultimately it's the sort of oscillation of air, right? So there is an expansion and contraction principle. And those of you, again, who are sensitive enough, you'll know that when you have certain thoughts, you can feel how your awareness will contract, right? It'll pull inward. And sometimes when you have a thought that's very expansive, we'll say reflecting like Jupiter in a way, then your awareness will expand outward, and you'll kind of have an expansive sort of experience, intellectually speaking and mentally speaking, as well as energetically and emotionally, because it's all connected. So this expansion contraction principle is so it's such a dominant factor here. And I like to think about Aquarius also, because Aquarius to me is kind of the epitome of this like expansive contraction principle. They say Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, traditionally speaking, right? So Saturn is the contraction force. It's the force which contracts. There's one system of, I believe it's linked to Tibetan astrology, and it was a really interesting system in that they talked about the rulership of Aquarius being the soul of Aquarians, right? The soul of Aquarians is ruled by Jupiter, right? So, in other words, the personality of Aquarius may be Saturnian, but as well as Uranus. But I don't want to get all into Uranus. That's another sidetrack. But I'm just going to stick to Saturn and Jupiter here. But the idea here is that Saturn will contract one's awareness. In this particular case, it's the focus on the material plane, right? So Saturn will contract your awareness on the material plane, which leads to pain, fear, and suffering, as is the old generalizations about Saturn. But Saturn is driving you towards spirituality. You have to move through pain, fear, and suffering in order to sort of grow and evolve, as much as we want to avoid those things. But as we start to grow and evolve, in the case of Aquarius, they start to tune into their deeper soul, right? Their deeper sense of self. And what ends up happening is they connect to that Jupiter principle or the expansive principle. So they can kind of take what they've learned through material focus and apply higher-minded principles in order to sort of evolve humanity in whatever niche way that they can. So, which tends to be very unique and very sort of contemporary and modern in expression. So, and again, Libra does something very similar. There's this sort of oscillation, this sort of bringing things into balance, this expansion and contraction along social spheres, right? Because what we're dealing with Libra is, Venus, but the soul of Libra, according to this particular system I mentioned earlier, is the soul of Venus is ruled by, I believe it's Uranus, right? So it's about bringing about revolutionary social constructs. It's about expanding and contracting, right? Bringing mindfulness and awareness, using that intellect, that sharp mind, in order to determine correct social dynamics, and ultimately bringing about revolutionary ways to sort of organize humanity in some ways. Okay, so hopefully all that makes a little sense. So let me go ahead and go into what happens with the air element in the body. So the air element in the body is the lungs. It's up here, right? So the heart chakra, lungs. What do the lungs do? Expand and contract, like all day. Expand and contract. So what ends up happening is that the expansion and contraction, bringing in air, inhaling and exhaling. So you could actually say that the air element is also related to the acid-alkaline balance in the body, right, in the bloodstream. So if you have too much carbon dioxide, then I believe the blood goes more towards an acidic factor. So this is one of the things that's really interesting to kind of pay attention to. So what do we end up having is when someone is not breathing deep, you get a lot of restlessness and agitation and things like that. But let me go ahead and read off some of the imbalances of the air element as it relates to the body. So we got hyperexcited, hypermobile, diarrhea. So the implication here is that we're looking at spaces inside the body, right? So that's also related to the air element, is where we have space. And so we also have rapid heart rate, gas, bloat, scattered thinking, insomnia, asthma, erratic breathing, severe depletion of energy. All right. All those kind of imply something. Movement, right? So it's all about movement. Air is all about movement, right? Expand, contract. You heat it up and it moves faster. You cool it down, move slower. So the movement aspect is really key here. How we're going to bring that into balance through the practice I'm going to give you is through the mouth. It's through mouth breathing. I love the term mouth breather. Somebody called me that a long time ago, and I probably was breathing through my mouth a long time ago, but it was the way the person was trying to insult me. They're calling me a moron, right? So they're calling me a dummy. And because it's true. Like when you breathe exclusively through your mouth, what ends up happening is that it has a dulling effect, which in some cases is actually desirable, which is why there are a lot of yogic practices that do a lot of mouth breathing. It's because you want to dull the intellect, you want to dull the mind a bit sometimes, because it can become overactive. And if there's a lot of activity up here, there's a lot of activity down at the diaphragm, right? If your mind is going like this, your diaphragm is going like this, right? The diaphragm is going like this, your lungs are going like this. If your lungs are going like this, you are going like this, which leads to all those imbalances I mentioned earlier. Hopefully that's clear. So the practice that we're going to do is inhaling mouth, exhaling mouth. Again, we're going to be saturating with oxygen, right? So we're going to be getting all this carbon dioxide out. And I should also mention there's a slight bias on the exhale here, right? So when I'm breathing, I'm focusing a bit more on the exhale than the inhale. You don't really have to worry about the inhale because when you exhale out, the lungs naturally want to pull in air. That's their responsibility. So we're going to focus a little bit on the exhale. And this is going to get rid of CO2. This is going to help bring your bloodstream into balance in terms of the acid-alkaline balance. So the CO2-O2 ratio, we could say. It's also what it's going to do. It's going to slow things down, right? It's going to slow things down. Again, mouth breather. It's going to dull things up here. It's going to eventually but towards the end of this breathing, diaphragm's going to be like this. Mind is going to be like this. It's going to be perfect to go into deep meditation, which I highly suggest you do for at least 5 minutes towards the end of this video. Let's see if there's any other details. Oh yeah, the mudra is Gyan mudra, which is thumb and index finger. Okay, that is the finger for the air element. All right, I think that's all the details I want to kind of talk about. So let's go ahead and go into the practice. So first thing you want to do, again, is we always want to root first. So you got to think about your perineum. If you don't know where your perineum is, your anus is here, genitals there, the space in between, that is the perineum. You want to push that down, which then allows the spine to pull up, okay? Then what we're going to do is we're going to bring our awareness to the crown of the head, which you want to tuck your chin very gently, bring your awareness to the crown, and you want to align it with whatever light you perceive above the crown. Like I close my eyes, I can perceive a light above my head, and I try to bring my crown into alignment with that light. And for me, it's about a foot above the head is what I notice. It could be different from all you, so you don't necessarily have to experience what I'm experiencing. So once again, nice tall posture. Fingers, Gyan mudra. So we're going to start this breathing pattern. Again, this is going to be kind of rapid. We're going to do this real briefly and intensely, okay? But then we're going to have a series of retentions afterwards. And when I say inhale, retain the breath, what I'm meaning is you're retaining the tension on the diaphragm as if you're continuing to inhale, even if you're not inhaling. Hopefully that makes sense. So anyway, I think it'll make sense once we do it. So let's go ahead and we'll pull up nice and tall. We're going to inhale long and slow through the mouth first. Exhale out the mouth. Let's do another one of those. Inhale mouth. Exhale mouth. Hopefully all the air is out. Now I'm going to have you inhale half breath through the mouth. Now we're going to do 45 seconds rapid mouth breathing. You want to keep your cheeks firm, lips firm. Exhale all the air out. Inhale through the nose. Begin to contract and relax your genitals. Gently touch the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Roll the eyes up. Relaxing the roof of the mouth, specifically the point behind the upper front teeth, the air point. Go ahead and exhale all that air out. Gently contracting root lock or mula bandha. Contract the anus, perineum, genitals, pull in the belt line. And leave the air out until you naturally, leave the air out for another 10 seconds. Keep that root lock. Inhale. Once again, exhale all that air out. No root lock. Root lock is relax. Leave the air out. When we leave the air out, we're moving our bias towards the parasympathetic or the relaxed branch of the nervous system. So take another breath in. This time I'm going to have you retain the breath. Keep a little tension on the diaphragm as if you're continuing to inhale. Relax your armpits, belly, rib cage, neck, throat, sinuses. In other words, you want to relax the tube that accommodates air. Again, roof of the mouth relaxed, eyes gently rolled up towards the center of the forehead. Go ahead and exhale all the air out, long and slow. And just leave the air out until you naturally need to inhale. So I want to thank you all for watching this video. And again, I highly suggest you meditate now for at least 5 minutes. Thank you.